Dudes to Dads is a podcast to help men understand and navigate the transition of being a single dude into a family man. How do we make sense of it all? Well, we probably won't be able to, but let's go ahead and have some fun trying.
And we are back.
We are back.
I'm Jason Kreidman.
I'm Alan Bush.
And this is Dudes to Dads. Again.
It hasn't
well, the
changed.
70th something time.
You know what?
We are in the 70s.
We are in the 70s.
Yeah.
I think, I don't even know the exact number, but it's pretty amazing that
Yeah.
we've gotten this far.
Yeah.
Very, very excited. So this week we started school.
Oh, okay.
So for those who don't have children,
Yeah.
that means back to routine,
Yeah.
back to earlier mornings,
Sure.
and back to chaos.
Back to the chaos. Well, do your kids go through summer vacation, have 3 months in a row where they're not in school? 2 months in a row,
something
2.5
like
or
that.
something?
Yeah.
Because I know that there's some
year
schools.
round.
Yeah, year round.
Yeah.
I never heard of that until I knew people that were teachers. And
Right.
then that's more of a recent thing, I would say.
Yeah,
within
no,
the
ours
last
are
20
normal. Well, they call normal summer.
Yeah.
Summer vacation,
Normal
but it's getting back to the chaos and
Yeah.
the second day already experiencing like the morning. It's not quite getting your shoes on.
Yeah.
like we talked.
Right,
and had those.
right.
But those kinds of things coming up, I actually
Sure.
promised I wouldn't talk about it.
Oh, okay.
My
Keep it
kids,
off
my
keep
kids
it
are
off the podcast, Dad.
Well, it's funny because now, Dad, you're not going to talk about that on the podcast. I'm like, no, I don't need to.
Well, that's funny because now they've been on it. They're probably paying way more attention.
Oh, totally. Can I see your phone? Can I see your phone? No, you can't because that episode's about you.
exactly.
No.
This
It's
kid
all
I know.
All in good fun. All in good fun.
Yeah.
But so going back to school has brought up a very interesting topic.
Yeah.
It's basically there's this thing called homework.
I'm well aware
Probably
of that.
familiar
I remember.
with it. Yeah, it's back in the day.
Yeah.
So the episode is why elementary school kids should not have homework.
Cool.
We have touched on this topic before.
Yeah.
I have very strong beliefs in this area. And so having a platform to talk about those beliefs, I'm going to do so.
And no objections.
Yeah, I'm going to do it. Why? Because it's my time and my money, and I can do that.
We control the show.
But I'd love feedback. I'd love for somebody to give me an argument why we should have homework.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear it. Podcast at dudestodads.com.
Yeah.
But what I'm going to do is actually provide a few reasons. Actually, I have 10 reasons. It was an article on the benefits of homework. Let's kind of start there.
Okay.
'Cause
That's a good approach.
The reason why it was actually on a teacher website.
Okay.
I'll post the link on the page for the episode.
Yeah.
But looking at why teachers give homework and why we have homework and do that, because I think it's one of those things where we've just been doing it, so that's why we do
forever.
it.
Yeah.
Right. What's the reason?
That's the way it is.
So one of the first things it says is it teaches students about time management,
Okay.
which I can agree. I mean, all these things we can agree about.
Yeah. There's nothing.
There's nothing revolutionary.
Yeah. No, nor is it necessarily bad.
But proponents of homework are going to argue that these are the types of things that it teaches.
Okay.
Another thing, it teaches students how to set priorities. If you have various subjects to deal with or you have various things, you've got to set your priorities on what's most important. Helps teachers determine how well the lessons and material are being understood by their students.
So that's kind of what the only thing I could say is probably one of the main components is that you take it home and have to do it without teacher guidance or someone next to you giving you the answers.
True.
So,
but there's a huge, which we can talk about too. There's that huge, movement about different kids learn at different paces.
Yeah.
And learn different ways.
Yeah, for sure.
So, this whole idea of standardized testing and all these things. See, I'm learning all this stuff now. I mean, my son is he's in third grade.
Yeah.
My daughter is in first grade. So it's like we're now kind of entering that where I had friends who had older children and they've dealt with this for years. I'm just kind of coming into it. And I never really understood about standardized testing and individualized education and all these things that the buzzwords and stuff people are talking about. I'm now starting to learn that. It is quite interesting and there's a lot of information to be had. So number 4, teaches students how to problem solve. That could be math, it could be anything, but just basically solving problems.
Yeah.
Give students another opportunity to review the class material.
Okay, so
obviously if they
second glance?
Yeah, second glance. If they don't know it, probably takes a little time.
Self-learning.
Yep. Gives parents a chance to see what their child is learning in school.
Yeah, that's
a good
another
one.
big one that I think
Right.
would be a proponent of what's going on.
Which I don't know if I had it down here, but basically it was reading a lot, and they talked about how it just in general gets more parents involved.
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of go beyond that of just what seeing the children,
Yeah.
seeing what the children are doing. It actually gets them more involved because they need to help or they need to sit
Yeah.
down and explain something.
Sure.
Which that in itself is a problem. The child's supposed to be doing it themselves, which we talked about also.
Yeah, right.
You can see where I'm going with this.
Yeah, I guess.
It gives students, homework teaches students that they have to do things even when they don't want to.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't want to do homework. Too bad.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
part of
Well,
it.
you have to. Yeah. No, that's.
Which is a great parenting technique. Why do I have to do this? Because I said so. You know,
right.
that's the genius parenting.
Yeah.
Saying
default
that
answer,
we get to do.
Yeah.
Let's see. Homework teaches students how to take responsibility for their part in the educational process.
Okay.
I think kind of meaning, it's up to them and they have
Yeah.
the choice of what they do and how much effort they put into it.
Sure.
Teaches students how to work independently,
Yep.
which you brought up.
Yeah, it's kind of a sub point of the.
Yeah,
other
they
point,
they have to do it and get it done.
Right.
And then teaches students the importance of planning, staying organized, and taking action.
Okay.
Okay. So these are all, benefits that were listed of doing homework.
Yeah. And valid points.
Yes. I don't think anyone's going to argue with these.
No, none of them.
The key is, I think that there's other ways to learn these same things.
Sure.
Whether it's at home, your value system, things that you do around the house, that you do in interacting with your family. There's all kinds of ways that these kinds of things can be taught.
Right.
Now, another argument would say that if you're active in your parenting and you're involved in your child's lives, this may not be as important.
That value system is kind of naturally being taught.
Correct.
Right.
And so that may be the perspective that I have to realize that's where I'm coming from.
Yes.
I'm coming from the perspective that both my wife and I are involved. We spend the time, we're doing these things, whereas other families may not have that. They might be in situations where they just can't,
Right.
or they choose not to. There's no time, whatever the reason is. So I am speaking from my own experience and my own looking it through my own glasses.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
The rose-colored lens of Jason
Of
Kratzer.
Jason, yes. Well, yeah, the perspective of how I look at this because of my involvement and then also because I think of my children.
Sure.
So now there's going to be caveats where children have behavioral issues and children have learning disabilities and all kinds of stuff that will come into play in making those kinds of decisions.
Right.
But I'm speaking from my perspective.
Yeah, right.
So, there's probably some other ways, like I said, that, children can learn this and those other ways might be more engaging and more interesting. And that's going to be especially important for elementary school kids that have a very low threshold for time, attention span,
Yeah.
all of that.
Yeah.
So there's a couple really, influential people, if you will, that I came across that are doing this. So first is a gentleman named Harris Cooper of Duke University, considered the country's leading homework researcher. Literally has spent years and years researching, testing, doing all kinds of things, and has published multiple publications and things of studies around homework and its effect on kids.
What an odd thing to become an expert at.
Yeah, I mean, talk about niche. Yeah, exactly. But meanwhile, he is the authority.
He's the authority.
And then another was a woman, Sarah Bennett. She co-authored. It's a book. It was called The Case Against Homework, and she created a website called StopHomework.com, and it's still there. It's not active anymore, meaning you can't interact with it. She's kind of, I think, moved on to other things, because I think at the time what I gathered from it is she had her children, they were younger. She made it her mission to stop homework and, focus on other things. And she actually got her children's schools to override their homework policies.
Oh, wow.
So she had quite an impact, but not only just, I'm sure, with her school and other schools, because it was sort of a movement, and really, really interesting. A great read over there. If anyone's interested, stophomework.com.
Yeah.
So this gentleman, Harris Cooper, the actual researcher and learning this, said that for elementary school children, homework provides no extra benefit. Zero.
Wow.
Zero extra benefit to the student from a educational purpose, from a knowledge purpose, anything.
Is elementary considered grade K?
Kindergarten through sixth.
Sixth. Okay.
Yeah. K through sixth.
Okay.
For middle school, they are suggesting that, which I think in our is 7th and 8th. Sometimes it might be 6th, 7th, 8th.
No, I was in junior high on 7th or 8th.
Suggesting that the benefit is very minimal. Very minimal. Like, could be argued either way. So what they're saying is that it actually has a negative effect for elementary school kids. It has the potential, I should say, to have much more negative impact than it does.
More consequences than perks at that point.
Affects their attitude towards school. So children who are stuck doing, quote, homework have sometimes a negative view of the school, of schoolwork. Also affects their grades, their self-confidence, because they might be frustrated in doing things.
Yeah.
Their social skills. It's prohibiting them from going out and interacting with other kids.
Yeah.
I mean, you're sitting at home on a couch. It makes them more sedentary.
Right.
That's another issue.
Sure.
Causing fatigue and stress.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about a young little kid who doesn't necessarily get as much time to play.
Right.
And the time of homework has been increasing, the amount for younger children. It's gotten younger and younger. So literally kindergarten has homework. We had not a lot last year in my daughter's class. It was something where we got a packet and then it had to be finished by the end of the month. Okay. It wasn't overwhelming. It was okay, but it still requires the parents' time and requires all that. But what's interesting though is that the research suggests that it doesn't help.
Yeah, you think about it. They're in school for like 6 hours a day, right? And then they get maybe a recess break of a half hour, a lunch for a half hour. So basically an hour in between that.
I mean, you're talking about things like, playing, building stuff, interacting with kids, playing sports, being creative, all kinds of things that are so important to the growth of your memory, your physicality, everything.
And you're taking it away from them when they leave the class.
You're taking it away from them, but then you're substituting it with being sedentary and looking at a book, or reading something or writing something. Not to say that there couldn't be benefits from that, but what they're saying is they've already gotten the maximum benefit they're going to get during the day.
Yeah.
So it's not to say that those things aren't good.
It's like if you and I keep working after we work.
Correct. There's a diminishing return on our work, and I know that for sure.
Oh yeah, and I've worked 10 hours, 15 hours.
The last
in some cases.
3 to 5 to 6 are not that productive.
You're not productive afterwards, and that's why I realized I just had to go home in some cases. Like I don't mind working a little bit late, but then there's sometimes I'm like, I'm just staring at a screen right now. I'm not doing anything productive right now. So let me just take off and enjoy my life.
No, absolutely. And you think about that for us in work, it's one thing maybe if you're like really driving towards doing something, and like for
finishing
me,
something up.
I mean, I've got other projects that actually, I do a lot of my work during the day and then I work on a lot of this stuff at night and I'm passionate about it. So for me, it's not quote work.
Exactly.
For you, it may be the music or creating.
Exactly. Or even like this, like this is the same thing. It's not work for me.
Right. Right. So that's a little bit different.
Yeah.
Whereas, and here's the thing, some kids and even my son especially, he's okay with doing it. Like he comes home, he's like, okay, and he does his work. He loves school. He loves work. Now, and that's fine.
And he might be the exception.
Right. I mean, but here's the thing, like he would read on his own.
Yeah.
And so now I'm saying there's not every kid is like that.
Right.
And call it luck, call it, practicing, whatever it is. Some kids just take to things and others don't. Now, if your kid is having problems or there are some issues that you see, they might need to spend a little extra time, but they're showing even so, there's that level of diminishing returns, Now, middle school, that changes a little bit. And then, of course, in high school, that changes even more. So what they're worried about is like, well, they have to create these really good habits as a kid so that when they're in high school, they can get into a good college and they can get it, all this stuff.
And they're not resistant to it when they get to that stage. Yeah.
And of course, and I'm not excluding myself from this, I've become a little, I've had a little bit different views and been open now to more things. But that idea is like, you have to get really good grades, achieve so much success, go into a good school so you can get a good job. That whole road to nowhere is a famous movie. I can tell you from my own experience, that doesn't make for a healthy, happy person.
Right.
That's not what ultimately brought me happiness.
Yeah. For sure.
It wasn't the driving. It wasn't. Now, did it make everyone else around me happy? Maybe.
Yeah.
Did I think that that's what happiness was going to be and success was going to be? Sure. But, I can tell you it caused high blood pressure. It causes anxiety. Yeah. It causes stress. That's not fun.
Right.
So that the whole point of, quote, achievement, there's got to be a balance, and I've always been, quote, a high achiever. But I'm here to say, for me and my family and my kids, it's not that I don't want what's, quote, best for them.
Oh, sure.
But the drive and the constant, sort of success and achievement, it's really, for me, it needs to be managed.
Yes. And it has to be balanced.
Balance. That's a better word, maybe.
Yeah.
Balance.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard. Now this topic is becoming a little bit more sensitive to me as I also look at what I've become as an adult. And how I was as a kid. Because for me, I always had to get the A. I always had to have the best grade in the class. I had to do the fastest on the math test. It was like, there was like this constant drive to be successful and be number one. Yes, it worked for me in many aspects, and it's who I am as a person. Yeah. But I've also seen the negative effects of it.
Right. Directly.
Yeah. And I physically have felt that.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. You had physical impact for you too as well.
Right. And so I don't, I look at my kids and saying, okay, well, what do I want for them? What do I want them to ultimately be? And you want them to be happy. You want them to be healthy. You want them to be well-adjusted, good morality. I mean, all these things that you want for your children, quote, success is there, but it's not the driving force. It's not the thing which I would have thought before. Right. It's like you really want them to just be happy and be healthy and feel good about themselves and those kinds of things. Now, it's probably easy for me to say that because I have kids who are good students. Yeah, right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because if they were getting like D's and F's, like what would you say and do at that point? So
I mean,
a whole different
part of it is that, instilling those values of studying or, doing the work. But like I said, we're talking about homework here. Yeah. So that's why I said all of it is looking through my own lens. Yeah. So I can't preach or I can't I'm really only talking about like how it experience, what the experience is for me and what I've had and also for my kids. But so hopefully people identify with that or they might not. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, give us some feedback.
Yeah, for sure. Let me know. Podcast@dozadesk.com.
Yeah. So what's interesting, so the National Education Association, it's called the NEA, and the National PTA, so these are two that are, they're intertwined with the educational system. They support a standard of 10 minutes of homework per grade level. So and that starts in first grade. So kindergartners don't get any. First graders get 10 minutes of homework per night.
Okay.
And then you set a general limit, for that. So
by sixth grade, you get an hour.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Which it's a lot.
Think about it. Yeah.
That's a lot.
Hours worth of working outside of the hour. And that is that you said per night?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it was per night.
Yeah.
Yeah. I believe so.
Yeah. Because that's
rather than per week.
Per week might be even more make more sense.
I'll have to look at that. Yeah. I thought it was.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
So one of the things I wanted to look at was like, what can we do to bring the change to this? Like what can we do as parents if we feel like this? So one of the first things, and I've read a little bit about it, is talking to the teacher directly. So if you can be proactive about it. It's like, it's a big first day of school. You probably don't want to go bark at the teacher. But, creating a relationship, a positive relationship with the teacher. And obviously you're somebody who is, you're showing up, you're helping, doing whatever you can to be an active part of your child's life. I'm going to guess, this is just a hunch, teachers appreciate that.
Yeah. Right.
You know, at least the ones that I've been interacted with, they like when parents are involved, as long as they're not too pushy and too overbearing and telling them what to do.
Yeah.
So that's the other part, is you have to the second part is finding the right time and the right way to communicate to them. Mm-hmm. So for some, they might say, hey, any questions you have, please send me an email. You know, or they say, you know what, come talk to me. I'd be happy to talk to you. You know, in the morning before their kids are lining up, probably not the best time.
Right.
So you might be able to say, hey, I wanted to get a couple minutes with you just to talk about my son or my daughter. You know, when would be a good time for that?
Right.
You know, and kind of and being that way. And then the next thing is communicate very, very clearly of what the issue is. Mm-hmm. So if, as an example, you know, after a couple pages of the math problem, my child loses focus. You know, getting him to finish this whole packet is taking 2 hours.
Right.
You know, this isn't working for him. And then looking at a solution, like, so maybe saying, is there an alternative way that he can show that he's learning?
Yeah.
You know, because it's not that he doesn't know it, but it's difficult for him to sit there and do all of these things. Mm-hmm. So that could be someone maybe who you went, if the child's having a little difficulty, or, you know, if you just have the idea that like, I just don't like my kids spending that much time on homework.
Right.
Talking to the teacher and saying, so, you know, what is the homework policy? Mm-hmm. You know, is this something that is required? Is it something that's voluntary? And if they say, well, absolutely, you have to do homework, say, what are the consequences if we don't?
Right.
You know, what is the consequence? And as the parent making that decision of whether you want to do that or not, maybe it's a modified amount. You know, especially if your child is having difficulty with it and you are, I mean, it's taking up time away from the family. Yeah. I kid you not. I mean, you think about like some of the kids in junior high and high school now, it is ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
You know, especially if they participate in anything extracurricular.
Yeah.
They're going to bed 9, 10, 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
And it's not because they're sitting up watching TV.
No, I ran track in high school. And so I did that on top of my homework and I was in college preparatory classes.
Right.
So I was one of those kind of achieving people as well. And I'm doing freaking calculus at home.
Right.
You know, and then running track, you know, on top of all that. So,
well, you were a much better student as a result of it.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I saw something that came up fairly recently, where they had a mom write a letter doing the math. Like there's this new method of doing math. Did you see that?
I did see
it. It's like a new method of doing math. It's really confusing to someone who just kind of steps into it. Right. And then she did it her way. She's like, this is how we did it.
Look how fast this is.
Look how fast this is. Here. Like, just do it like this.
Right.
Yeah, it totally made sense. I'm anxious actually to kind of learn that math just to see how, I don't know why it's so complicated.
Yeah. You know, and you don't want to be someone necessarily who's, making a huge stink unless that's what needs. The first step is just being, sort of inquisitive about it and understanding it, and the reality is that, I have to believe that, teachers want their children to learn.
Sure.
And they want them to be effective. I think there was a lot of the argument that I had heard from a friend who's principal or from other teachers is that there's these standardized tests and they're so worried that their school, because they don't get funding and they don't get this and they don't get that, because, the standardized tests have a big impact on the school, that that the preparation of homework, like they have to get through all this curriculum.
Yeah.
And so in a sense, like they're being forced to that. So I don't know. It may not be that the teachers have an option.
Right.
I don't know. I'm not that in tune with it, but whether they have like discretion, I guess, of saying, yes, we want homework and no, we want homework.
Right.
So I'd love to hear from teachers as well.
For sure.
And sort of what's going on with this. You can give us email, podcast@dudestodads.com, Facebook, Dudes to Dads.com,
right.
Or just look up Dudes to Dads on Facebook.
Probably easier.
Or Twitter as well.
Yeah.
Hashtag no homework. So I think summing this up, it was kind of a quote that I was thought of. It's just kids need to play more and sleep more.
Yeah.
That's really what these articles, after reading the research and everything else, is especially the young kids. And I see my own kids being really exhausted and tired after a day of school.
Sure.
And then they get rejuvenated and they get to go play and they get to, interact with their friends.
All that out.
Solving problems. Like, I'm watching them. It's like, I'm not solving the problem. I see something even in the neighborhood, they're arguing or something. They work it out. They learn how to like interact with each other.
Social skills.
Of course, as long as everybody's safe.
Right.
But like these kinds of skills or being creative, like my son was like creating a fort the other day.
Yeah.
It's like
fun.
To me, that is just more important than doing the math problem.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
as somebody who's been through that process.
Well, and because you're already doing the stuff already at school. So it's not, and you said something that really triggered my thought about it, is that if you can't get what you need from the 6 hours that you're there, then do it the next day. You don't have to bring it home too.
Right.
Like if you can't get it, you're either not doing it right. You know, we talk about that with work ethic.
Yeah.
If you can't get the work done that you need to get done within that just certain time.
Well, so
period.
that's actually one of the arguments. People are saying because there's a certain amount of work that needs to be done, and they evaluate. That's one of the ideas of actually a reason for homework was that they evaluate like what the average student should be able to do.
Right.
You know, there's an average, a median, whatever, and if a student is slower with that work, then that's the work that they would bring home.
Gotcha.
You know, to like catch up.
Yeah.
I can understand that.
And that would be something like you said, if you don't get this done, then you bring it home.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Versus like you didn't get, or well, not even to get this done, but you did your work. Now here's some more to practice.
some more. Yeah. Everyone gets the same amount.
Right.
And then the people who did it really fast are just sitting there waiting for the slow kids. Right. You know, like it's like.
Well, that's really like Khan Academy and some of the online learning tools. That's the whole point of it is just individualized learning.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, kids learn at different paces.
Right.
Doesn't make it better, worse, whatever. I mean, a kid's, you know, it's not the outcome of who they are as a person and later in life. It's just they learn at different levels. And the problem with a lot of these schools and the classrooms is that like everyone has to learn the same stuff.
Right.
You know, I think the teachers are making some effort. I mean, I know that like with my child's class, they put them in groups.
Yeah.
You know, and some of the groups are at a different level than others. And so that may, I'd like to think, and I see that they're making that effort, you know, to do that. But yeah, I mean, in general, unless there's those disabilities or the problems or, you know, other things that probably might warrant that extra care and the extra time, you know, if they're doing okay, they're doing okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and we make such a big deal about it, and it becomes such an issue about like, do your homework. Did you get your homework done? Did it, you know, then we have the whole, you know, thing about natural consequences, which is like, you don't do your homework. I'm not going to stress about it. It's not for me to stress about.
Yeah.
You know, especially as they get a little bit older, it's like, you got to do your homework because that's what's required.
Right.
But now I'm trying to think like, do I really care and want them to do that?
Right.
Like I'm really, really questioning it.
Yeah,
You know, and
yeah.
so, because it's now coming into the fold. You know,
Yeah.
I haven't had to deal with this before.
For sure. Yeah.
So it's quite interesting. So, but that's the gist of it for today's why elementary school kids should not have homework.
#no homework.
#no homework. Dudes to dads.
Dudes to dads.
Once again, we appreciate any feedback, comments, questions.
Yeah.
5-star reviews.
iTunes or Stitcher.
And make sure to subscribe. So that's an important thing actually that we hadn't talked about recently, which is subscribing on iTunes and Stitcher. So you're not just listening, but you're actually subscribing to it.
Yeah.
Which means you hit the subscribe button. We also are putting most of the episodes, almost all the episodes actually now on YouTube.
Yeah.
Some of them now we have some videos, which we thought they weren't going to be here till 2019.
Right. They've made their way
we got a couple
into
up.
the YouTube atmosphere.
And the reason they're sporadic, which we can disclose, is like sometimes we don't get the recording right, or sometimes there's something cut off, or so, you know.
Yeah, it's been happening weird.
It's a learning experience.
File size is so large, like it's a lot of.
We are a dude and a dad, not necessarily
videographers.
So yeah, it is not the easiest thing in the world to do that.
Yeah.
And I understand. So with that, Alan, thank you.
Thank you.
And we will see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.